So, I understand these critiques will make me seem to be an informant of the LAPD, attempting to discredit the name of the alleged Chris Dorner. However, I am and never would be in any way, shape, or form affiliated with a tyrannical, racist, legal gang that exercises a fascist agenda. The information contained in the document you are about to read, or the video you are about to see, is based on analysis of the Manifesto written by the man named Chris Dorner. If the man exists, and if he wrote the Manifesto, then these are my critiques of his position as a whistleblower. I do, however, hope for his sake the Manifesto was a forged document for the intent of defamation of the character of someone who knows too much and must be stopped. Proceed. I say that I hope the LAPD wrote the Manifesto for the sake of Chris Dorner, because if he wrote it, he deserves the speedy, violent death that the LAPD and possibly a courageous citizen thirsty for fame is preparing for him. If he wrote the Manifesto, he's not a rebel, he's not a whistleblower, he's not a revolutionary, and he's even more so not an impeccable writer, as he proclaims, for he incorrectly used the homophone "new," spelled N-E-W, which speaks to the condition of something, when he should have used the word "new," K-N-E-W, which references someone having knowledge of something. Back to my point. If he wrote it, he's just a scorned house nigga, whose master revealed to him that he was never truly part of the club. How so? Now that he knows he'll never be one of them, and that to them he's just another nigga, he wants to take revenge against an agency that's been using excessive force, framing and killing innocent people for decades before he was even on the force. For example, the Parker era of the 1950s and 60s.
A great number of those people came from areas in the country where they were much further dislocated. They came in and flooded a community that wasn't prepared to meet them.
The Rodney King beatings of the early 90s, the Rampart scandal, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And as the intelligent, honest, and decent man he claims to be, why the fuck would you take an oath to an agency known of these practices? This whole scandal is being looked into the wrong way, in my opinion, especially among black folks. We already know the LAPD is corrupt. This dude obviously would have never came out and said anything if he wasn't the one getting fired. He was on the force for 3 years, and in that time he never went as far as going public speaking out against any other internal incidents that took place. For example, the men singing Nazi youth songs about burning Jews, or officers stating that they will use the word nigger whenever they feel like. Wouldn't an intelligent man just resign? Or go to a different police department? Why fight to stay? The reason he fought to stay is because he lost his entire sense of identity. He's a slave to the system that brainwashed him. He's a military boy. And if we know anything about the military, we know that one of the very first things that they do to new recruits is they cut your hair. You are stripped of your identity as a man with a name and reborn as a robot with a number. And the robot is to be obedient to the head slave master, known as the sergeant. And in some cases, the name is alternated with the name master, hence master sergeant. Dorner is the type of slave who characterizes himself as the type of black man who is not an aspiring rapper or gangbanger or a man with baby mamas, as if that means anything other than the racial stereotype that he places on his own people. So the type of slave he is, unfortunately, becomes the house nigga. I can't really blame the dude for his thoughts. I mean, I can, but what is he supposed to think when he grew up in places where he was the token black guy and dealt with racism? You begin to assimilate the behaviors and thoughts of those who are around you. That's why they say, if you want to be a millionaire, be in the company of millionaires, or birds of a feather flock together. If you're not exposed to black culture, whatever the fuck that means, then obviously you don't share the same values and principles and viewpoints as those who share the same ethnicity as you. He was the black kid who didn't act black and didn't want to act black for whatever reasons he chose. And this is true because he's obviously not the black guy that everybody thinks he is, the rapper, gangbanger, baby daddy. And he says it in such a way that makes those types seem derogative or beneath him in a way. That to me sounds like self-hatred. Self-hatred has been a condition that has plagued the so-called black community for ages. It's a response mechanism to years and years of oppression. Every description of blackness was considered wretched, demonic, ugly, worthless. And I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the fact that society impresses upon the minds of blacks that black is whack, you do one of two things when faced with that propaganda. You rebel against the idea, or you begin to believe that it's true. In this case, the way he describes his brothers is with discontent and shame, alluding that rappers can't be decent, gangbangers can't reform and become role models, and that baby daddy isn't a synonym for father. The lack of understanding must come from his lack of association with people of his ethnicity, which grants him somewhat of a pass, but nevertheless, he's a house nigga. When we further analyze the manifesto, we learn that the one incident that sent him over the edge was the excessive force complaint filed against a fellow officer. The officer denied the claims, an investigation was held, and a false report on the part of Chris was the end result. He filed a lawsuit, lost that as well. And mind you, the lawsuit was filed to reinstate him as a police officer. Let me point out a vital trait of the house nigga, let alone the slave, as Malcolm X put it.
And he loved his master more than his master loved himself. That's why he didn't want his master hurt. If the master got sick, he'd say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick?" When the master's house caught a fire, he'd try and put the fire out. He didn't want his master's house burned. He never wanted his master's property threatened. And he was more defensive of it than the master was. That was the house Negro.
Let me remind you, the agency, the LAPD, is known for using excessive force, illegally searching, seizing, and property of taxpaying citizens of all races, but mostly blacks and Latinos, without probable cause. And yet Dorner went as far as filing a lawsuit so that he could remain part of this fraternity. Why would an intelligent, honest man want to be a part of an agency like this? When slavery ended, a lot of slaves stayed on the plantation because they could not imagine a life without their master telling them what to do, what to think, and what to eat. The idea that master would no longer be around frightened them so badly that they refused to leave the house when their time came. Dorner is this type of slave. Let's take a look now at a different compartment of Dorner's psychology. Who in their right minds shouts out Charlie Sheen in a document created to expose truths about a corrupt organization? This to me signifies that not only is he consistently proven that he's a house nigga, but now he's also proven that he may be one of two things: narcissistic or psychotic. His constant reference to himself about his character and precise and pristine writing ability showcases the technique of an aspiring rapper who continuously boasts about how awesome they are.
Sound like the coldest Miami night ever.
I'm so hot, I leave the beat with third degree burns.
I'm so fucking hot that I don't even fear the devil, man.
But he's not an aspiring rapper, right? His infatuation with his name rings narcissistic, and his thirst for blood and revenge in efforts to restore honor to his name demonstrates a lust for martyrdom. He wants to be remembered just as Bill Cosby, Charlie Sheen, and the 500 other celebrities he waved goodbye to will be. And this is the revolutionary that has Facebook feeds and pseudo-intellectuals in a frenzy over? What information has he exposed that reveals new information that will be detrimental to the LAPD? We'll wait. And why are we so quick to consider him the good guy? He was a member of the notorious LAPD, which then makes him part of the problem. He's not on our side. He's clearly articulated that his mission is to restore his name. So evidently, he's on his own side. So why are we cheering for him to get away? If the allegations are true, he murdered someone's daughter. Murder is murder. Wrong in all cases except for self-defense. But there are far more intelligent ways to bring your cause to the attention of the masses. For example, he credits the hacker group Anonymous with being a necessity that brings truth to a cloaked world. But what he fails to realize is that Anonymous is getting their point across and doing it in a way that's effective, and no one is getting killed. No matter what, he's no Malcolm, he's no Martin, he's no Bill Cooper, no Julian Assange. That is, if he truly wrote the manifesto. Which is why I hope that Dorner didn't write the manifesto, because if he did, he would have never had to kill anyone to incriminate himself more than he did here. He's clearly turned his back on his own people in more ways than one, demonstrated mental instability, and admitted he's going to kill people. He's got to be the dumbest person on the planet. This is not Django Unchained. This is not a catalyst for the next LA riot. This is revenge of the scorned house nigga. But if he didn't write it, who really wrote the manifesto? Stay tuned for my next analysis. Turn the volume up and bang it out.
Spooked by the door with tribal metaphors. Got a rifle and some Bible folklore. Smoking mirrors scar the mind like a cold sore. Burning down your temple with a blowtorch. Eat the apple to the pit, your core. Parables mimic the forces of supernatural phenomena. Reflect the ambiance to the common genre. Assimilate